In the immune system, we have a couple different kinds of white blood cells that play a role in our protection against pathogens. So we have our B cells and T cells that are going to be part of lymphocytes, which are very specific immune system cells. We also have our very general types of white blood cells, and these are called leukocytes. And in leukocytes, our main one is going to be neutrophils. Now, neutrophils are phagocytic. They're going to engulf. And the other type of phagocytic white blood cell is a macrophage. Now, it's monocytes that develop into macrophages. Another part of our immune system, or something that plays a role, would be platelets. Now, that would be involved with like blood clotting factors that will form scabs, as we'll see in our second line of defense. So for our white blood cells, this lymphocyte is includes our B cells and our T cells. So it's a little bit more specific than we're going to talk about right now. These white blood cells here we're going to talk about are actually called leukocytes. So leukocytes, leukocytes, oh my gosh, that's horrible. Anyway, so here we have leukocytes, and our first one is neutrophils. Neutrophils make up about 60 to 70% of our white blood cells. They're short-lived and phagocytic. We have eosinophils that are involved with destroying parasitic invaders. What they do is they get real close to a parasitic invader, such as a worm, release some proteins that will perforate holes in the body of the parasite, resulting in the parasite's death. We have basophil cells, which are somehow involved in the inflammatory response, similar to mast cells. And then we have monocytes. And our monocytes are what are going to develop into macrophages, which are our big eaters. These are long-lived and play roles in both our both second line of defense as well as our third line of defense, which is with our acquired immunity. Okay, so two types of defense we have. We have innate, which are things you're born with, and there we also have acquired. And an acquired immunity is going to be more specific types of defenses. For example, like the chickenpox. So I had chickenpox in 5th grade, and now I have acquired immunity against any future cases of the chickenpox. If I ever get exposed to that virus again, I have a memory against it, and I will be immune. So that's my acquired immunity. With innate, these are nonspecific defenses, such as my skin or other extracellular or intracellular defenses. So let's go ahead and look at some innate defenses. So here we're looking at non-specific defenses that are external. So this would include our skin, which acts as a barrier and also has a slightly acidic pH. We have our mucous membranes that are lined with cells that secrete mucus that traps pathogens. These mucous membranes cover the surface and line any openings to our bodies. And then we have stomach acid, which has a low pH of about 2 that will kill pathogens, pretty much like in our food and stuff, anything we ingest that has bacteria or viruses. Of course, I should point out that there are pathogens that have evolved resistance to our stomach acid and still survive in that environment. And then we have lysozyme. This is a protein that is going to digest the cell walls of bacteria, resulting in their death. You find lysozyme in tears, saliva, mucus secretions, as a non-specific way to try and protect your eyes or your mouth or whatever from bacteria or pathogens, microbes. Now this, together makes up our first line of defense. So these external defenses that are non-specific are our first line of defense. Now sometimes though, your skin, for example, might get broken, like if you fall while you're skateboarding or something, and so now your first line of defense has been defeated. So now we have what's called our second line of defense. If a pathogen actually gets past your skin or your lysozymes, etc. So here, our second line of defense is called the inflammatory response, not to be confused with the immune response, which is later. So now we're looking at still non-specific innate defenses, but these are going to be intracellular and chemical defenses. Whereas this back here, the skin and those things were extracellular, outside of the cells. So here, let's look at our skin. And if our skin, below our skin, we have capillaries. And then in our blood, in our capillaries, it's important to point out we have both red blood cells and white blood cells traveling in our blood. Below the surface of our skin, we have something called mast cells. And so here, if our skin gets damaged, it gets broken, the mast cells below are also going to be damaged. So damaged mast cells are going to release a chemical signal called histamine. Now histamine is going to cause a reaction in our capillaries. So histamine is going to communicate with our capillaries, kind of like a local regulator, and it's going to cause the dilation of the capillaries, which causes them to expand.